So I made the video not too long ago explaining some of the best iPhones that I ever bought. Now, there has never been a really bad iPhone that I purchased. I just want to get that out of the way. Every single iPhone that I've personally used as my main device has been a very worthwhile phone, and I've loved every single one of those devices. But there have been some iPhones that may have not been the best ones. I think the first one that comes to mind is probably the iPhone 12 Pro. Although this wasn't the worst iPhone ever made, from my personal experience using iPhones, this was probably the worst iPhone that I ever used, or probably the worst iPhone that I had probably the worst time with. I think the 12 Pro was a great design change. I liked, having a bigger phone for the Pro model. That was really cool. I liked the size difference as well, getting that bigger sized, and I really did like the flat sides to it too. That was a really cool option we didn't have for the 11 Pro, but we got it with the 12 Pro. But strangely enough, there were a lot of design changes that Apple made that weren't really super adequate in my opinion. The battery health change, I don't know what happened there. That was such a very strange experience I've had with the iPhone 12 Pro, and I was not a fan of that. It gave me such a weird experience in the battery health department. It was degrading like crazy, and I was not a fan of that at all. On top of that, I felt like the performance was about the same as the previous generation. I felt like the screen was pretty much the same too, and I just didn't really feel like it was a big upgrade. I feel like the 13 Pro was a way bigger upgrade, and I felt like the 11 Pro was a big upgrade, but the 12 Pro for some reason just didn't really stand out to me. So that was pretty much the first iPhone that kind of, stood out to me as it being one of the worst iPhones that I ever used personally. But there have been many iPhones that I've, had in my hands and I've held and I've bought that I've, reviewed and everything. And more recently, the iPhone SE3 is probably one of the worst iPhones that I've purchased as well recently. It's not the worst iPhone of all time, like I mentioned, but just everything surrounding this iPhone, it just really kind of freaks me out about the way Apple is trying to go with this budget tier device. I mean, this iPhone, design-wise, completely outdated. It's been outdated for about, 5 years now since the iPhone 10 came out. So there's not really a huge point of, still making an iPhone that looks like this. I love Touch ID, and I don't mind the home button, but I just don't like the non-gesture based design. I don't really prefer an IPS panel anymore either. And the fact that this thing still has a pretty small size battery compared to the other iPhones, the display isn't really that nice compared to the new iPhones either. And even compared to an iPhone 10 from 2017, I know we're comparing flagship to, new, budget phone, but there still needs to be some improvements there. It looks like the sales numbers aren't really doing too well for the iPhone SE 3rd generation either, so that could also be a telltale sign of Apple kind of really not doing, their due diligence of doing the research of what people want nowadays. And I can definitely tell you, for them keeping the same design, barely even changing the internals that much compared to the previous iPhone SE to this one, but also increasing the price tag, those were some really bold moves from Apple, and I'm not too sure why they even went that route. Now, those were the first two iPhones that came into mind. There's not really a whole lot of other iPhones. The other ones I could think of, probably like the iPhone XS Max, but that's not the worst iPhone. I think that was a needed one. It did bring a bigger phone, and although it wasn't perfect, I think it was a decent phone at that time. So those are pretty much the main iPhones that come into mind of which ones were the worst ones in my opinion that I personally used. If you have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.